Hi again then guys, and welcome to the very first episode of a new series which I'm going to be starting on the channel, probably on a weekly basis, but no promises. We'll try to do it as that. And this is a series which is going to be one of a few actually, starting today and running through all of this week and hopefully coming weeks as well, where we're going to be branching even more into other games on the channel, because although my main focus is and has always been Forza and Gran Turismo, I've always wanted to branch out to doing plenty of other racing games as well, be it cars or motorbikes. And this is one of those games, Project Gotham 4, which still has its fans today. I'm one of them. And although I'm not a huge fan of the career mode itself, I think it's a bit too arcade-ish for me, the main thing that I do love about Project Gotham 4 is the vehicle selection. It's so good. In fact, although it doesn't have the most vehicles of any car game, it has one of the best varieties of any car game, and I'm going to single out really some of the absolute coolest cars from the games, not just ones which are cool in the general sense like Ferraris and Lambos, but ones which are more unique to this game, ones which aren't featured on many games at all. And what better way to start off this series than with my favourite vehicle ever. Literally, in real life, this is my favourite vehicle ever made, cars or bikes. If I could only own one, it would be this. And the vehicle in question is, of course, the controversially styled, but not exactly controversial in terms of performance, MTT, or Marine Turbine Technologies Y2K, or as it's known in the game, the MTT Turbine Superbike. This is an awesome machine. And for those who are unfamiliar with it, put simply, the MTT Y2K is a superbike which takes a used up, to some degree, gas turbine engine from a helicopter, a Rolls-Royce Allison series gas turbine engine, and then a company called MTT fit it into various different situations and components that require that. But then MTT decided to make a bike, and now years on, we have 17 Y2Ks that have been built, and it's still the fastest production motorbike ever made, by far. Stuff like the Kawasaki H2R, the BMW S1000RR, the Suzuki Hayabusa even, they don't come close to how fast the Y2K is. Now you can modify a superbike with a huge turbo conversion, for instance, like a 700 horsepower Hayabusa, and you could potentially beat this. But that's not really fair, because that's not a production, factory-built bike. This one is. Now, with that being said, specs don't play a huge role in the world of Project Gotham. It's more about ratings, stuff like acceleration ratings, grip ratings, even drift ratings, and of course the vehicle's overall category. So in the case of a Y2K, the category is C, and that's out of a possible A through F. Now I think that's horrendous. To have this as the third level down from the top is a ridiculous notion. But of course, this is not a drag racing game. It's a circuit racing game, very much so. In fact, there are relatively few circuits where you can actually get it up to high speeds. However, with a bike like this, you can get up to those speeds pretty quickly. Now, I will say that the bike is only available, as far as I'm aware, on Project Gotham 4. I don't think this bike has ever been featured on any other driving game ever that I'm aware of, which is, to be fair, the number one reason why I love Project Gotham 4. Because it features my favourite vehicle ever. Of course I'm going to love it. But more importantly than that, this bike is not necessarily represented correctly in the game. Now, being a slightly more arcade-ish style racing game, that's not too surprising. But what I mean in particular is not the handling, because the Y2K is not a good handling bike. Of course not. It's almost 12 inches longer than most superbikes. It's just not designed for cornering. This is very much so the SSC Ultimate Aero of the bike world. A pure straight line monster which is only designed for that and takes corners when it absolutely has to. But here's the ironic thing, it's not as fast as it should be. Now I know it's fast, it's real fast. You can get this bike up to about 235 miles per hour, quite easily in fact, and you can see that in this video. But more the issue that I take issue with is the acceleration, because in the real world this bike does 0 to 227 miles per hour in 15 seconds. It doesn't do that in the game. It's not even close. So that's unfortunate. I would have loved to have seen it have performance which actually mirrors the real world much better. Now, some of the quirks that this bike has are things like the power delivery of a gas turbine. They're much more sluggish at lower speeds, and you can instantly feel that with this bike. because it doesn't want to uptake power and acceleration once you get to, say, well, to the lower end of second gear in particular. And one thing that I would strongly recommend when riding this bike on any circuit is that when you do slow down for a corner, if in particular you choose to use an automatic gearbox like I do, which is incidentally what the real bike has as well, then you definitely want to drop it into first gear when you exit the corner, because it makes such a huge difference to the Y2K's acceleration. Now, first gear can launch you up to around 95 miles per hour pretty quickly. Second gear, though, is really just for when you know you can use that top end speed. So once it does kick up into second, you'll be okay 9 times out of 10, but don't let it exit a corner in second gear, or you will see the sluggish acceleration. And at some points in this video I may have even done that. Overall, as far as the ratings that they give it, some are accurate. They give it a 10 out of 10 for both acceleration and top speed. That's true, although it's not exactly mirrored that way in terms of acceleration in particular, but other things I definitely don't agree with. They give it a 5 out of 10 for braking. That's not even close. It should be at least a 7, because as you can see in the video, you can get this bike from 235 miles per hour down to capable speeds of taking a harsh corner in no time at all. And the bike isn't skittish, it doesn't shoot around all over the place like a normal bike would at that speed. So I would say the brakes are definitely better than a 5. As far as grip, they give it a 7. Maybe that's a little bit too high. I'd probably give it a 6, because it does get a little bit tail happy because of the huge torque. I believe 420 pound-feet is the real world torque, with about 320 horsepower. I believe that might be at the crank though, at a massive 52,000 RPM, which is yet another thing to love about this bike. As far as drifting, they give it a 3. That's a bit too low. As I said, you can definitely get the tail out on this thing, as far as motorbikes go at least, but it's okay, who really cares about the drifting on this one? I'd probably give it a 4 myself, but sure, a 3. So overall they're giving it decent scores, but it's more the fact that it's in the C class which I take issue with, because it should be at least B. Not necessarily A, because they're insanely fast, stuff like your Caparos and your Toyota GT1s, but B class? Yeah, it can take on B-class vehicles for sure, under the right circumstances, and that is exactly what it should be, because the Y2K is not a track bike. It's a pure straight-line missile, which can take corners when necessary. But that's it overall for this particular review. Of course, I'll see you guys next time for another one, and for now, as always, thanks for watching.